I'm very pleased to be here with all of you today, and also with those joining us online. It's quite special to organize a discussion on the future of the Amazon just after Brazil's presidential elections. I would say it's quite a timing for this, yes? In the last few years, I have been organizing a series of events focusing on Brazil as part of my work for Global Canopy. And most of these events were to discuss all the setbacks that we face in the country, not only on the environmental agenda, but also on the political and social agenda, amongst others. Agendas that were led, actually, by the current president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro. I would say so, because of this, it's such a joy to be here and somehow having this perspective that we are kind of turning this sad page of Brazil's history, and that we are starting not only to discuss, but I would say to start shaping the possibility of renewing, updating, rethinking the policies, public policies, but also civil society actions for the protection of the Amazon and for its people. We know it's not going to be easy, quite the opposite. We have new challenges now to face, such as the alliance between illegality and organized crime. We have, for instance, also the elections of governors in the Amazon region who are Bolsonaro allies. We have loads of disinformation and fake news in the country. And we also have a profound economic crisis, who brings us also the responsibility to think about not only how to protect the biome and its people, traditional people, which is already a huge challenge and something we owe as Brazilians, you know, for society and for the planet. And I would say also that we have also the challenge to think about how to include those who are now part of what we could call the economy of destruction. And so we need to change that and offer more prosperity for its population, the population of the Amazon, who actually have the worst social indicators of the whole country. So I also, on the positive side, I also like to say that we have a new president in power. As I said, the chance to kind of start something quite new there. Also learning from the past, because during Lula's first mandates, we were able to have in the country a huge decline, a historical decline in the deforestation of the Amazon. For me personally, this event is also an opportunity to pay a homage to Joênia Wapichana. He's one of the panelists. It's a great honor to have her here with us today. As I was reading this morning, she is a woman of many firsts. She was the first woman to go to university in her family. She was the first woman to become an indigenous woman who is a lawyer. She was also the first ever Indigenous Congresswoman. So, muito obrigada, Joênia. É uma honra ter você mesmo conosco e parabéns pelo seu trabalho. I don't want to say much more because we are late, as you know, but I would like us, before starting the panel, to watch the trailer of a film which is called The Territory, which is incredibly powerful. And somehow, for me, it sets the scene from many of the topics that we'll be discussing here.
A floresta, os rios, é a nossa casa, onde a gente se mantém.
Porque o uruê-uauau é como se fosse uma barreira.
Tudo desmatado.
Ela é, para mim, no meu ponto de vista, o coração, não do Brasil, mas sim do planeta em geral.
O sonho brasileiro de quem está vivendo aqui é ter seu pedacinho de terra para poder trabalhar, né? Tirar ali o seu sustento. Produzindo alguma coisa, plantando para fazer nosso Brasil para frente. Eu mesmo falo, eu nunca vi nada de índio. Fala, ninguém nunca viu, não. É, só fala, tá?
E o que eu fico revoltado é que a gente ainda é considerado bandido, pessoas que atrapalham o país, entendeu?
Desce no copo, vai estar no rio. Eu vou estar ali, eu acho. O cara vai estar ali, né? Vai. A Associação do Rio Bonitos diz que querem sua terra. Mas, no meu ponto de vista, eu acho que eles querem mais do que a terra. Eles querem acabar com o povo indígena, acabar com os isolados. A gente não vai permitir que aconteça, não.
Whoa. Can you hear me? Yes. First of all, well, I'm Carlos Rittl from. I have the honor to represent Rainforest Foundation Norway, and it's a pleasure to be siding with Krika to facilitate this event. Krika is a former colleague, fellow, and friend from the climate arena. She invited me to do part of my career together, and well, I'd like just to start inviting. Krika has introduced Joênia, but I would add to your huge curriculum, to your huge contribution, the fact that you establish a caucus to defend indigenous people's interests in the National Congress. And please join us. It's a pleasure to have you here. You probably have heard the name of Joênia a lot in the last few days about the new government, and we hope you have your contribution to be also well accepted and respected, and your name is well considered by the new government. Thank you very much, Joênia. Secondly, I would like to invite Mauro. Mauro is the football fan from Paysandu and Botafogo. Botafogo just came to the group of teams that could get into the Libertadores Cup next year. And he said, represents here the Secretary of Environment from the state of Pará, one of the most important states when we speak about not only forestation, the challenge of deforestation, and the policy that could address deforestation. It's the state with the highest deforestation rate, and so it's a pleasure to be here together with us, Mauro. The next is Txai. Txai, for those who, please, a big round of applause to Mauro also. Oh, the next is Txai. Txai is there. For those who have been to COP last year in Glasgow, you probably have seen one of the most powerful speeches made during that COP in the opening ceremony. And Txai has among several different initiatives she leads. She's a representative from the Youth Indigenous movement in the state of Rondônia. She's one of the coordinators of the Canindé Association. And she's one of the most important voices nowadays from the youth indigenous leaders in Brazil. Txai, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you here. Please join us. Awesome. And last but not the least, I would like to invite Márcio Astrini. Márcio Astrini had the most easy job in the world, is to start working for the Brazilian Climate Observatory in 2020, a very easy year, where we all know that there's nowadays the most important environmental network in Brazil. He just joined the Climate Observatory after its former lazy executive secretary gave up and moved to Europe. That's me. And so Márcio has done a brilliant job in turning Climate Observatory even stronger and more powerful and going far beyond the climate agenda. This Climate Observatory started as a network defending, working for the climate policies, and nowadays is a network very important defending democracy and rights. Please, Márcio, come. And he's also a supporter from a fantastic team in Brazil. São Paulo is not doing well recently. But he's my friend. And thank you so much. I'll pass to you again now. And Krika, you address some questions to the panelists, and I'll join you later. Yeah, me too.
So just before starting with the first question, I also would like to share and say a special thanks to Kite Insights for the opportunity for us to partner with them once again at this COP as last year, and also to Climate Action to host this event, and also for Rainforest Norway for their support and for making this event possible for us. I would like to start asking Txai, how is it like to be back at COP after your explosion last year, Txai? And what are you bringing here? What are you saying here about Brazil that is different from what you said last year? And what you think that is still important to repeat, for this international audience?
Thank you. First, I would like to thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here, talk with you about our reality, about what's going on in the Amazon, and how we can win this war against the climate change. How change the... Okay. The last year, I have the pleasure that do the opening in the COP, and now I come back in this COP in this beautiful country, and some things change. First, because now we have a president, because in the last year we don't have, is the truth. And now we can think about the future, because in the past we were just in response. We are just in survival, and now we can thinking in construction, thinking about the future, thinking how we can really change the things. And I think to Brazil, this is very important, and also to the world, because when we talk about the Amazon, my place, we are talking about not only my future or the future of my people, but your future too. And I think it's very important say that. But one thing don't change. We continue to talk about people. When we talk about climate change, we are talking about social justice, and we want win this. We don't think first about the people. Why? We cannot do a carbon market if the people there don't have education, don't have health, don't have security, because we protect the land. The United Nations said the indigenous peoples are the best defenders of the forest. We are 5% all the world's population, and we protect 80% the all biodiversity. And this show how we are so important to the balance the climate, how we are so important to continue have life. But it's important to say that now we have a better government, now we have a president, but we can change the things if we are not together. Because the government won't change the things if they don't have the companies, the indigenous peoples with them. They cannot, you know? It's impossible because we need, first we need financial. We need that the rich countries look to us and understand that they need to show the money. They need to show the money to us, you know? And isso aqui é o meu tempo, né?
Yeah,
Tá.
no, I need to move on. Sorry.
Okay, so thank you. And
So my second question is for Mauro. Mauro, as Carlos has already described, Pará is one of the most important states of the Amazon region and the one with the highest rate of deforestation. So what are the problems that you face to tackle this issue there? And what are your priorities at the moment to face this problem?
So I would like to thank to the invite to be here. I think it's much important to realize this kind of events. So Pará is the leader of the deforestation in Brazil for 15 years. So, but in the last 4 years, the curve of the deforestation is declining. The Pará has 70% of the lands owned of the union government or the federal government. So when the federal government stay out of the war against the deforestation, the Pará decides to combat the deforestation only in the 30% of the lands of the Pará. So the curve is declining, but deforestation must have to cooperate with the union, the state, and the municipalities. If you look only a part of the deforestation, you don't be efficient in the war against the deforestation. So we must cooperate in deforestation, in deforestation or the war against the deforestation. So the Pará decides to do rules and laws to prepare to receive resource, not only financial resource, but human resource to improve the war against deforestation. We institute a policy climate change states, a sectorial plan that we call Plano Amazônia Agora, that's a land and use and plan and forest plan that we want to implement it in the four next years. And we institute a state plan of bioeconomy. We institute a fund, a private fund called the Eastern Amazon Fund. Now we are prepared to receive resources, but we are preparing the states to implement policies that will decrease the deforestation too. We must to convince the people of the municipalities, the 15 municipalities that has the high level of deforestation, Bolsonaro won the elections. The 15 municipalities that the high level deforestation, the population didn't vaccinate from COVID. So the first municipality that the high level deforestation, the people from this municipality just 18% of these people was vaccinated of COVID. It must be studied why the people votes in Bolsonaro and why the people didn't vaccinate of COVID. So we, in this panel, in this audience, I think that people want to study this, want to cooperate with us, to join with us with this war against the deforestation.
Thank you very much, Mauro. I would like to hear Márcio's or civil society's perspective on what's happening in the Amazon states and what, in your view, should be prioritized to solve these problems or start solving these problems.
In the states, in general way, including federal government?
Yes, but focusing more on the state level, but also, yes, if you want to comment the federal
Great.
level.
So first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. And you are all my friends. I know you off time, but Carlos Rittl was the former Climate Observatory Executive Secretary, as he mentioned it. And he didn't say he was also the former Public Policy Coordinator or Climate Coordinator in Greenpeace when he replaced him as well. And so just so you know, next year I'm going to be here replacing him as well to do some questions to other people. And thank you very much. And I mean, in Brazil, long Bolsonaro's government, we had a lot of problems, of course, related to democracy and other issues, other times, in general way. But what we faced in the environment agenda is related a real sabotage put in place in this theme in environment agenda during 4 years. It wasn't something that just was like a omission come from the federal government. It was planned to try decrease the capacity of the Brazilian state to face criminals in Brazil. We are not just talking about criminals who are operating in the Amazon and criminals who are not being faced by the federal government. Not. The federal government established one real partnership between the government and the criminals, mainly in the Amazon, around the country, but along the country, but mainly in the Amazon. Bolsonaro's didn't create the forest crime in the country. Bolsonaro's created the partnership between the federal government and the crime in the Amazon. The most maybe clear, or the most clear example we have is about the former Brazilian minister, which resigned the ministry exactly to don't be arrested because he was investigated and he was prosecuted by the Brazilian federal policy and the Brazilian Supreme Court for being involved in 9 environmental crimes, including illegal timber exportation facilitation. So the crime was inside the federal government. The crime was the federal government, and I had a partnership at the federal government. So to rebuild this capacity to face the crime is one real challenge in the states, and also in the federal. When you're having one federal government which gives a bad example, which drives the criminal, which gives benefits to the criminals, even in the states and the subnational level, it absolutely it creates one scenario very difficult to operate. and so sorry to change this it's absolute to rebuild the capacity to face the crime.
Ok, briefly, vocês todos têm um copinho d'água aí do lado. O do Márcio foi um pouquinho para trás, que ele anda meio desastrado hoje com copos. Mas tá do lado direito aí, Joênia. Só para, assim, se a goela ficar seca aqui, a gente tem um pouquinho de água. Não, Joênia, essa eleição, ela foi muito tensa. A expectativa até o último minuto de quem seria o presidente eleito e o que isso representaria. Yeah. Switch to English, yes. Joênia, thank you. This is one of the most disputed elections since we came out from the dictatorship times, and till the very last day, no one really knew who would become the president. There was a huge engagement from indigenous people, several candidates. You were running again to the National Congress. And at the very end, we had for the Amazon, it were two absolutely different worlds. Bolsonaro lost, the Amazon won. And what's your first thoughts now that Lula is the president, and what's your impression? What should be his priorities to address indigenous people's affairs in the proper way and to reverse a series of setbacks that we had along these last 4 years? Thank
you. First of all, I would like to thank you and for invitation and congratulations for the Sky Day discussion and for the audience. I feeling hopeful and optimistic because a Lula president is new president in Brazil. I hope we have more credibility in the world and stability, political stability, and especially in international discussion. I think for me in Amazon and indigenous people, a priority for us is conclude some demarcation, because Bolsonaro president stopped all process to recognize indigenous lands, and the invasion in some indigenous lands, like in my state, in Yanomami territory, is totally danger for indigenous, because this time there are a lot of violence against indigenous, especially for indigenous women and children. And this, I want to say that this night, people in Boa Vista capital of Roraima, my state, killed one indigenous woman, and she put in risk the children 6 months the age. And the people ask why a lot of violence, because Bolsonaro encouraged people to do attacks against indigenous peoples. But why? Because need to explore indigenous land, like miners, illegal miners inside indigenous land. And now I know the Lula president make the best proposal for Brazil. What kind they propose? He said for everybody in Brazil, and invite everybody. We need to rebuild the country, rebuild and include social, environmental agenda, and prioritize some areas like climate and youth and the indigenous rights and environmental social participation, and maybe to remove invasions from indigenous land. And for this reason, I am hopeful that Lula have more to consolidate this proposal, and the Brazil could change the image in national level. And I think Brazil has a lot of condition to do the best for the planet, especially because in Amazon, in different biomes, you have capacity to develop more action and program to save not just the land, but the life. They protect more the space, especially natural resources. I think this is the first impression.
If you allowed me, Carlos, maybe we are seeing the new ministers of the new minister of the indigenous people in Brazil, Lula.
I received.
Opa! We'll be back with this as a question.
Subject, yes.
As a question. Thank you. A very, very important, relevant comment, and yes, we vote for sure. But Márcio, you too. The last 4 years were years of resistance for serious for indigenous people, but also for the environmental movement in Brazil. And what changes now, and the type of work the Climate Observatory is doing? What is the perspective now, and what should be the focus after Lula is inaugurated in January?
So I would say the first thing changed in Brazil is about the democracy. Yeah, without democracy, you don't have a space to fight for indigenous, rivers, trees, environmental, climate, anything else. And so that's the most important, to keep the democracy in Brazil. I was used to say before the election, Brazilians would choose between democracy or Bolsonaro, Amazon or Bolsonaro, human rights or Bolsonaro, humanity or Bolsonaro. It's impossible to have all of these and Bolsonaro at the same time. And so fortunately, Brazilians choose it for the forestry and the humanity, democracy, and not Bolsonaro. We're going to have a lot of to rebuild in Brazil, in any field, yeah, in any perspectives, in public health and education and democracy, and of course, and environment in a lot of areas. And but doesn't matter just rebuild the country. We need to rebuild the country and to build the guarantees, or to work to build the guarantees that we will never have to rebuild it again, the country. Yeah, that's our main challenge for now. And I mean, Lula, I have been with him like months ago, before the election, in one public event, one day before the Environmental Day, the World Environmental Day. And I can say you for many times, actually, but this was a special moment when Lula said in this event, he was really convinced that climate and environmental agenda and a social agenda goes together, walking together, they are together. And Brazil is suffering a lot of extreme climate events as well, like in Petrópolis, one city, and in Rio de Janeiro, when we have a lot of extreme weather, extreme rains occurring there, and a lot of poor people and a lot of vulnerable people was suffering because of the extreme events. And so that is showing, and Lula is really personally convinced that climate will affect more and more poor people, and the poverty is in the center of Lula's agenda to this government. If poor people, most vulnerable people, and poverty is in the center, so climate must be in the center as well, because the most affected people in Brazil and others, as we are seeing right now recently, unfortunately, in Pakistan, yes, it's poor people. The image you have that comes when you see a huge dry or extreme climate event or anything, it's the poor people paying the most part of the bill, yeah, for climate event. And so he's personally convinced on that. He knows climate and environment agenda is a very important way to talk to the rest of the world. And Brazil can be a leader, not the leader, but one of the leaders in this agenda, but must gives the example.
Sorry, Márcio, what are going to be the shifts on the climate change observatory's work now as a result of the elections?
Yeah, and I mean, we are coming from this place to resist and going to another perspective to rebuild or to build the agenda, yeah, in Brazil. And so, for example, in the last 4 years, we were discussing how to halt setbacks to be imposed in Brazil, legislation to be changing towards in the country. And then now we are right now writing proposals to the government and how to advance to the agenda, yeah, and how to work together with civil society. The government, I don't believe the government will do everything needed alone. So civil society and governors, indigenous in general way, the academy will be all together, and I can see all of them ready to work together with the government, and the government ready to have these areas, this space to in collaboration work with the government. So that's the why we are so helpful. I don't believe Lula or his government will be a magical government. We'll do everything possible, but now we are coming for one situation when we were really in disappear, and now we have hope. That's the change.
Okay, thank you, Márcio. Mauro, thinking about the way the abilities required by the challenge to manage the conversation among so different heads and so different governments among the Amazonian states. How is to find a consensus to build an impactful and positive agenda with among governments which are run by some people that are in some states, for example, in Txai, NAIDS states in Rondônia, we have a government running an anti-environment agenda, anti-indigenous peoples agenda. And so how is to address that under the umbrella of the consortium and to find something proposals and positive and impactful?
So, Carlos, allow me to do a reference, a special reference about my governor, Helder Barbalho. Under his leadership, everything, just everything, the policies that we presented to him, he approved and defend and turn a public policy in the states. The Governor Helder is a new leadership that are becoming a national leadership. So in the legal Amazon, we have 9 states. And these states, 3 of these states were not aligned with Bolsonaro. 6 was aligned with Bolsonaro. And in every 6 states, the government was re-elected. But I think with the absence of Bolsonaro, the President Lula, with his capacity of the coordination, so leadership, can turn this with the help of the support with people like Joênia and Txai, indigenous people, traditional communities, and extractive people, and the social civil society, we can help President Lula to change these things. I think the governors of these states that was aligned with Bolsonaro must need President Lula and the federal government. As Márcio said, we don't do anything alone. We have to cooperate. We have to learn to cooperate. We have to learn to coordinate and support and empower the municipalities to do what we have to do. We must have much work to do. It's difficult to rebuild the government. Every office, my original office is General Office of Lawyers of Brazil. I'm a state lawyer from Brazil, and includes the General Office of Lawyers of Brazil as must be rebuilt, and Ministry of Environment and Human Rights and other offices ministries have to build. So I think we must President Lula lead this way to change the minds of the government with the support of the states and the municipalities.
Thanks, Mauro. Just a follow-up question on this. What is the specific agenda that the governors are bringing here to COP?
The governors asking for the capacity building, but not only to prepare the public servants, but prepare the organization of the states. We have much resource, financial resource, free to access in the world. But you have to prepare the states and the municipalities to receive this resource and manage this resource. So we must have to prepare the functions, organization, the organic organization of the states and the municipalities to implement the policies. Is the priority.
Thank you. And Mauro, take advantage that you had made a comment before. Joênia, I'll come back to you because, well, we know that among the promises made by President Lula when he was running for the presidency as candidate was to defend the rights of indigenous peoples, and through the establishment of a new ministry. And so your name have been referred to as one potential minister, and of course you count on the support of the many around here. And Ailton Krenak, another fantastic indigenous leader in Brazil, has declared support to your name as the new ministry. But if you want to make any comments related to that, you are welcome on the conversations, if there's any conversation about that. But more than that, what should be the priorities of this new ministry for the agenda of indigenous peoples, and how these coordinate, for example, to the work done by other existing agencies, FUNAI, CESAI, and others? Thank you.
So, I have to say, I'm ready and able if the Lula invite me. But referendo in indigenous movement, it is very important for us. I think the Lula, when he said this new minister and for indigenous peoples on national events like ATL, Acampamento Terra Livre, this moment had a lot of concern about the some regressive and the bad policies about indigenous indigenous rights, because Bolsonaro every time said the government no space for indigenous, no budget, no money, no financial, stop demarcation, and try to accuse indigenous leaders because they climb international level about the situation indigenous in Brazil. They try to convince agribusiness to dispute indigenous between indigenous because here indigenous land. So this is grown the violence. And this Lula said, you need a space for indigenous to first thing, I think this is the first thing, articulate between ministers, different ministers like environmental minister and cultural and health, education, justice. I think FUNAI has to stay in justice minister, and like for health and education, like this kind. I think this is kind the location for track about demarcation land, about the education, have a more articulate, more policies, more money to develop, a continue. I think the new minister could be more for articulation and facilitation and to strong the indigenous policies, especially to receive support like climate, financial, climate to financial, and like the for some investment to contribute to develop indigenous initiative, which have a lot in Amazon, to improve the like political and social rights. I think it's very important for us, and have some space to build a new policy, because you need to refresh like some idea, because 4 years stop it this. You need space for indigenous, different indigenous peoples in Brazil. We are more than 300 different people. You need to dialogate between indigenous and government and National Congress. So I think this is very important to do this between the new minister, include especially international level too. No, I think this.
Thank you very much, Krika. Is it you?
Txai, we have been speaking a lot about the state's governors, and we know that the results in Rondônia are not that good for indigenous people's rights and environmental policies. So what are the priorities of the youth indigenous movement there in order to face this? And that also could be replicated in other regions of the biome.
Yeah, unfortunately, our government in my state is Bolsonarista, but they know that we are continuing fighting against all the destruction of our territories, and now we have the presidents with us, and I think we have a good people in the other governors. And what's the priority? I think first, Joênia said, we need to demarcate the indigenous land. We need the end of deforestation. And more than this, now we have the other indigenous congresses, and we need to do laws, because we need think why Bolsonaro could destroy our environmental laws, politicians, why we are in this place now, you know, because in 4 years, he did what he did. And we need to think, okay, now we have a minister, and we really need building a minister that when we have a new government, they cannot destroy. We need building laws, and we need building the agenda that they cannot destroy in other government in the future, you know. And the youth, we expect that in the next COP we can come back how decision makers in official delegation of Brazil. I think this is important because we continue not being the table. We're not doing the decision. And the youth, the indigenous peoples, and all the movement, we need to be there. Because the things not will change the up to the ground. No. If you want change, we need the solutions in the ground to everywhere, you know? So, yeah, I think that.
Thank you, Txai. Now, the last question to all of you, starting with Márcio. Márcio, how can the international community, how can best the international community help us in Brazil in relation to what comes next for the country?
So, I mean, can do a lot. First of all, don't buying products come from the crime in Brazil, come from deforestation in Brazil. It's a long journey. We are working on that for a long time, yeah. And still now you can find a lot of shipments come from Brazil, arriving in many ports and around the world, actually importing deforestation, actually exporting, you know, destruction. In Brazil, land grabbers are acting in Brazil and exporting land grabbers through soya and cattle and gold products as well, even more inside the indigenous land. Yeah, and so there isn't just one. Of course, the Brazilian government is the most responsible for this control, is the most responsible for how to the destruction, but other countries cannot finance the destruction in Brazil. And so the regulation, the EU regulation we are discussing right now are the final rounds of discussion over this regulation is absolutely important. Wetlands, for instance, is one of the discussions. Some countries want to take off wetlands from take out the wetlands from the original paper. It must remain, yeah. And so this is the kind of help, the kind of move countries can do. Also, financing solutions in Brazil. I would say it's very important to ensure that the money will find who will implement the money, who will implement the solution, and we first of all, we need to remember and to refer about indigenous population. They are the most effective people around the world to defend the forests, and they are the forest guardians, and there is no discussion about that. So continuously financing the solutions, because in Brazil, and just to finalize, we must pay attention that the crime in the Amazon is much more powerful than 4 years ago, but much, much more powerful. And in some regions in the Amazon, they represent the most part of the local GDP. So how to face these criminals in a region, and what about the economy in this region? And people who are living just there, they don't have a choice. They don't have other economic opportunities, to bring food to their houses, to their families. And so how to replace criminals there, ensuring the crime will not come back again in this region. And so finance this kind of solution is very important. And so, I mean, it's a set of solutions. International audiences can or must keep pressuring Brazilian government, pressuring the Brazilian Congress, mailing the Brazilian Congress, investing in solution, and don't financing the deforestation in Brazil.
Carlos, would you like to comment too?
Two very brief comments, I promise. First, some of those companies that export products that reach out to the markets, for example, in Europe, and associated or contaminated by deforestation and indigenous blood conflicts with indigenous local communities are the same that come and promise to end up deforestation by 2025 with a huge marketing campaigns promising that they'll be green in the sometime in the future. Meanwhile, they keep profiting from deforestation, destruction, and violence. And the second comment is that international cooperation, Lula promised to reestablish the dialogue between Brazil and the world has welcomed Lula as the new president. He's about to come the next coming days, and he'll be a celebrity in this space here. And for sure, the international community has a role. For example, next year will be challenging to rebuild. Start the rebuilding is always challenging, and international cooperation could contribute to strengthening the government, the capacity of the government in the beginning to start faster by several different ways. Donations, unfreezing the Amazon Fund, and other initiatives, but also through direct cooperation in different areas, promoting, supporting different sustainable development programs, etc. And so I think I'm sure that this is a part of the dialogue between Lula and some of the leaders around the COP.
Can I just, it's just because it's my, in the words, just to pay tribute to Joênia Wapichana, because she's ending his mandate in the Loud Chamber in Brazil. He's ending his mandate as a leader in the Congress, but we will never end your mandate as a leadership for us in the civil society. Your leadership is forever. Thank you very much for resist. In these last 4 years. Thank you.
Final comment. So how best can the international community contribute to what comes next to Brazil?
I think not only to Brazil, but to all the countries that are suffering more. The rich countries need be our obligation, need be a duty. They support us, because we are talking about our lives. When we need to stop talk about just economic. We are talking about our future, and this is not it's not only our duty. It's to all the world. But, and I say to you, we cannot do this alone. And more than this, the indigenous peoples, we are not only the best defenders of the forest, but we have the solutions to change and to win this crisis. Because we are building the solution in our lands, so the companies need to understand that you're not doing a favor. You can provide with this too, if you want. You know, now the Amazon, we don't know nothing about the Amazon. We don't know nothing about the indigenous peoples. And we not are only protect the land, but we are doing a sustainable economic. We are doing a good job in our lands that I think you will really like if you know. You know, we can work together. And if we work together, we can change the world, not only our reality.
It's your turn now, Mauro.
So, first of all, I'm very proud to receive a compliment of young leadership like Txai. First of all, pay attention where the good policies are happening. Pay attention where the governors, the state governors, and municipality governors has good initiatives. Second, help us to structure good projects and good action plans. First of all, donate resource for Eastern Amazon Fund or Amazon Fund that we rebuilt in the federal government. I'm seeing the Avesita Chinchon that represents the Betty Gordon Moore Foundation that donated yesterday $20 million for Amazon Eastern Fund. So it's an enormous significance to us because the Eastern Amazon Fund is burning, and we are structuring this, and it must be successful.
Sorry, Mauro, to interrupt. Could you just describe briefly the fund? What is the money for?
The Eastern Amazon Fund is a financial platform, private financial platform, with a governance hybrid, with public servants and social civil society in the manager that establish the directions, what the policies can be supported in Pará. So we can receive donations with companies and countries and NGOs and to implement policies in Pará. So we must improve this fund because the Pará is a natural leadership in the states of legal Amazon. We don't want to be the unique or exclusive leadership in the Amazon. We want to spread the good initiatives to other states. But one must be the beginning. And the state of Pará is beginning the good policies. So finally, we are open to receive donations like equipment, helicopters, planes, equipments of IT, developers of the systems in IT, because we have to dispute equipment with other areas of the government, like health, like education, like public security. So we have to have our equipment, not only the state of Pará, but the consortium, the collective of the states have to have equipments sufficient to struggle the deforestation. So these things, if you support us, if you help us, we are going to a good way and finally. Thank you.
Thank you, Mauro. And now the final words of our potential Minister of Indigenous People. In your opinion, Joênia, how best can the international community help us on this next chapter?
The first, no final word, but I would like to thank you for your words, Márcio. I think my WOW mandate pertain to be collective mandate for 4 years. 4 years. This is final. Will be in January next year, in January, and I try to be mandate very open to civil society and different indigenous people and different parties. I know Brazil have a strong challenge for next days or next steps, but Brazil needed a support, not just in word but financial too, and especially international level. I hope the international community in different countries could help us, and especially to develop the plans or to consolidate the plans, especially for indigenous peoples, especially to protect the indigenous land. And in Brazil, I think not just in Brazil, but in all planet have a crisis, and Brazil economic crisis. I hope can dispute money between the security food and the indigenous rights. I hope the international community can support us, because it is a kind of use is a I say consolidate now. I think in Wapichana, just a minute, and you can consolidate. No, not consolidate. Conciliate. Conciliate. Conciliate agriculture necessary needs for population. I think a lot of people suffer because have hungry, but in respect the human rights and indigenous rights, land, the health, and the nature, the forest, and the water, the children, the indigenous woman, and beliefs. You can consolidate that, and I hope you understand, and it can give some support for Lula president, because now you rebuild the country, give space to discuss about that. Maybe next COP, invite Txai and civil society to explain how Brazil now, this time, because sometimes Brazil, in my opinion, Brazil have a space, but forgot something in people who live in the Amazon, people who live in the border. You have a lot of challenge because you have a human crisis. In Venezuela, they go to Brazil, my country, the people looking for some solution about economic, about the security, about the health. COVID is stay here. Now, I have a crisis in health and all planet. But one thing, we don't have more time to do something about climate crisis. Everybody can do little things, change behavior, make some reflection about the products which buy more the gold products, like say Márcio, can influence the government to do the best to control the airport and the commercial things, and because some contracts don't monitorize the product. This product can be from illegal way, especially products from Amazon, like woods, no, like gold, like diamonds, because this product don't stay, the money don't stay in Brazil, go away to outside Brazil. So you need to be very criticize the law, international law. And I know have some concern about the not just capacity building for indigenous, but for non-indigenous people, because we need to do about the indigenous rights. Now we have the UN Declaration on Indigenous Rights. It's kind of the orientation for national politics, and this is kind of could orientate and give some say solution, and give for everybody in the world safeguard for indigenous peoples. I hope the international community can advance in this discussion, in negotiation, not just discuss here, not just this space now, financial action. They have the consolidate the compromise. I hope next COP2 can more plan, not plan, but report about the action now. No, the ministers. Just a few minutes, I forgot to say the Minister of Indigenous People in Brazil. This space is very important, but I hope not be just status for indigenous. I don't want status or just say Minister of Indigenous People. You need structure. You need the baggage. You need financial. You need autonomy. We need to have one strong minister to develop the indigenous plan. No just name, but could include this year. O orçamento, como the budget for this year, for next time, because you know it doesn't work. It doesn't give condition to work. It's good to have Joênia, Sônia, not, but if you don't have condition to work, the people say, oh, indigenous people unable to do. So you need more than space.
You need power and autonomy and budget.
And
yes.
power, yeah.
Very good.
Thank you so
Joênia.
much.
Thank you. So Txai would like to make her final comments very quickly, and then we wrap up.
Very quickly. Brazil, we are not just here to ask you help. We can contribute with the other countries, you know. And Brazil always leadership in when we talk about the climate change, and we can come back to this. So we're not here just to ask, oh, help. We can contribute with the word.
I'd like to thank you. Muito obrigado, Joênia, Txai, Mauro, Márcio. It was a pleasure to have you here. It's so much hope. We've heard today much more words of hope, and thank you everybody who came here to join us, to listen to us. Thank you Global Canopy and the incredible communications team of Global Canopy, without whom it wouldn't be possible to make this event. And thank you all the people from the staff, from light, from sound, and from the structure, because amazing to make it happen. And thank you also Rainforest Foundation that supported this event and allowed me to be here with you. No, thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Krika, because you are responsible for some of the best events I have seen in COPs in the last few years. I'm being honest. Thank you a lot.
So I just want to thank you, protectors of the land, your land, but our earth, our lungs, our body. And I just want to bring us back just 1 second to that wonderful film we saw at the beginning. We saw the burning, and we saw the axe hit the skin, the bark of those trees. And I just invite you to just think of that, remember, and notice the feeling that came up, that emerged. Just allow that to sink in a little bit deeper than we would prefer to do. This proof of these feelings, this pain, is proof of our interconnection, our interconnectedness. So allowing us to feel the pain of the world is key. We must suffer with the pain. This is compassion that we really have to bring into this climate space. And when we begin to know the immensity of our heart mind, when we allow this pain to arise and feel it together. So what has isolated us by keeping it buried away and not wanting it to emerge, now actually opens outward and delivers us to a wider vision of our interconnectedness, our interbeing. So we're in this together, and thank you so much.
Thank you.